A love out of place. When the wrong table changes everything. American love story. When the restaurant door opens, Adrian Cole doesn't know he's about to sit at the wrong table, and it will be the most fateful mistake of his life. The elegant woman across from him isn't who he expected, but her eyes make his heart stop. A single father meets a powerful family's heir. A forbidden love. A choice that could destroy everything. This is a story about love stronger than status, braver than fear, and more dangerous than anything they could imagine. Follow my story to the end, hit like, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. The reservation was wrong. Adrian Cole stood at the entrance of Estelle's, one hand gripping the strap of his canvas jacket, the other holding a crumpled printout with a confirmation number he'd triple-checked that morning. He didn't belong here. The polished marble floors, the soft glow of chandeliers, the waitstaff moving like dancers in synchronized silence. It all screamed money, the kind that didn't come from turning wrenches under rusted pickup trucks. "Mr. Cole?" The hostess appeared, her smile professional and distant. She wore black, crisp and expensive, her hair pulled into a knot so tight it looked painful. Yes. I have a reservation for 7:30. Adrian Cole. She glanced at her tablet, tapped twice, and frowned. "Right this way, please." Adrian followed, weaving through tables where couples sat in hushed conversation, crystal glasses catching the light. His boots, clean, but still worn at the heels, felt too loud against the floor. He'd borrowed a button-down shirt from his neighbor Marcus, ironed it himself that afternoon while his son, Jamie, watched cartoons on the couch. The shirt was a size too small, pulling at his shoulders, but it was the best he had. The hostess stopped at a corner table near the windows. Outside, the city glittered like scattered diamonds, light stretching to the horizon. "Your table, Mr. Cole. Your guest hasn't arrived yet." "Thanks." He sat, tugging at the collar that already felt like a noose. This dinner was supposed to be a thank you. A guy at the shop, Dave, had helped Adrian cover a double shift last month when Jamie got sick. Dave mentioned he liked this place, said it was fancy but worth it. Adrian had saved for 2 months to afford it. Tonight was supposed to be simple. A handshake, a good meal, maybe a beer if they had something normal on the menu. He checked his phone. No messages. The waiter appeared, young and clean-shaven, holding a leather-bound menu. "Good evening, sir. Can I start you with something to drink?" "Water's fine, thanks." "Still or sparkling?" Adrian blinked. Still." The waiter nodded and vanished. Adrian opened the menu and immediately regretted it. No prices. That was never a good sign. He scanned the options: seared diver scallops, duck confit, something called amuse-bouche that he was pretty sure wasn't even food. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Jamie asleep. Went down easy. Don't screw up your fancy date." "Not a date," Adrian typed back. "Just dinner with a friend." "Sure, that's why you ironed." Adrian shoved the phone into his pocket and looked up, just as someone approached the table. Not Dave. A woman. She was younger than he expected, maybe late 20s, with dark hair falling in loose waves past her shoulders. She wore a navy dress, simple but clearly expensive, the kind of fabric that moved like water. Her face was angular, striking in a way that didn't need makeup to announce itself, though she wore just enough to sharpen her features. But it was her eyes that stopped him, gray-blue, guarded, and tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. She stopped at the table, hesitated, then glanced at the hostess who'd already disappeared into the crowd. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice low and smooth. "I think there's been a mistake." Adrian stood, almost knocking his chair back. "Yeah, I think so too. I'm supposed to meet someone." "So am I." They stared at each other. The woman looked down at her phone, then at the table number on the small brass placard. "Table 12. That's what they told me." Adrian pulled out his printout. "See? Adrian Cole. 7:30. Table 12. She scrolled through her phone, lips pressed thin. "I'm Lily Whitmore. My reservation is also for 7:30. Table 12. "Well, that's..." Adrian stopped. Whitmore. He knew that name. Everyone in the city knew that name. Whitmore Development. Whitmore Foundation. Buildings with that name etched in granite. Hospitals with wings dedicated to people who wrote checks with too many zeros. "Great," he muttered. "They double-booked us." Lily looked around, scanning for the hostess, but the restaurant was packed, every table full, the staff rushing between orders. She sighed, a sound that carried more exhaustion than frustration, and met Adrian's eyes again. "I can go," he said quickly. "Seriously, this place is... well, it's not really my scene anyway. I'll just..." "No?" She said it firmly, then softened. "I mean, you don't have to. If you want to stay, we can share the table. Just until one of our actual guests shows up." Adrian hesitated. "You sure?" "I'm sure I don't want to stand here arguing while everyone stares." He glanced around. She was right. A few nearby tables had noticed, eyes flicking toward them with barely concealed curiosity. Adrian sat back down. Lily slid into the seat across from him, setting her small leather purse on the table. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The waiter returned with Adrian's water and paused, clearly confused. "Miss Whitmore, I didn't realize. Should I bring another menu?" "Please," Lily said. He disappeared again. Adrian cleared his throat. "So, Whitmore?" "Yes." As in, yes. She didn't elaborate, just looked at him, waiting. "Right. Okay." He took a sip of water. It tasted expensive. "I'm Adrian. I fix cars. I gathered that from the reservation. What gave it away?" "Your hands." He looked down. Even scrubbed clean, his hands told the story. Calluses across the palms, a faint scar on his thumb from a slipped wrench, nails that never quite came all the way clean no matter how much he scrubbed. He'd tried. Tonight, he'd really tried. "Yeah," he said, "occupational hazard." Lily's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted. Not judgment. Something else. Curiosity, maybe. "How long have you been a mechanic?" "Since I was 16. Worked at my uncle's shop after school, then took over when he retired. Now I run my own place, small, just me and a couple part-timers." "Do you like it?" The question surprised him. Not what do you fix or how's business, but whether he liked it. "Most days," Adrian said honestly. "It's good work. Honest. You fix something, it runs, people are happy. You don't fix it right, they come back pissed off. No gray area." Lily nodded slowly. "That sounds nice. What about you? What do you do?" Her jaw tightened, just barely. "I work for my family's company." "Doing what?" "Meetings?" "Mostly." She picked up her water glass, turning it slowly between her fingers. "A lot of sitting in rooms while people talk past each other." "Sounds thrilling." "It's not." The waiter returned with her menu, rattled off the specials in a rehearsed monotone, and left them alone again. Lily didn't open the menu. She just sat there, staring at the polished silverware like it might offer an escape route. Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it under the table. "Dave. Can't make it tonight. Family emergency. Sorry, man. Rain check?" He exhaled. No Dave, no dinner, just an expensive mistake he couldn't afford to fix. "Your friend?" Lily asked, watching him. "Yeah, he's not coming." "Mine either." She held up her phone, showing a text from someone named Caroline. "Caught at the office. So sorry, babe. Next week for sure." They looked at each other across the table, two strangers stranded at the wrong reservation, and something ridiculous bubbled up in Adrian's chest. He laughed. Just once, short and sharp. Lily's mouth twitched. "What?" This whole thing. I saved for 2 months to eat here, and now I'm sitting with someone I don't know. Neither of our actual friends showed up, and I can't even pronounce half the menu." "Amuse-bouche," Lily said. "What?" "It's French. Literally means amuse the mouth. It's a small bite before the meal." "Why not just call it an appetizer?" "Because then they couldn't charge $40 for 3 bites." Adrian laughed again, and this time Lily smiled. Really smiled. It changed her whole face, softened the sharp edges, brought light to those tired eyes. "You want to know something?" she said, leaning forward slightly. "Sure." "I can't stand this place." "Then why'd you pick it?" "I didn't. Caroline did. She likes being seen here. It's..." Lily paused, choosing her words carefully. "It's the kind of place where people come to be looked at, not to eat." Adrian glanced around. She was right. Half the tables were more interested in checking phones and scanning the room than their plates. "So why'd you come?" Lily's smile faded. Because she's my friend, and she wanted to. And because I don't have a good reason to say no to things anymore. There was something raw in that admission, something that made Adrian forget about the too small shirt and the wrong table, and the fact that he was sitting across from someone whose family probably owned half the city. That's a hell of a way to live, he said quietly. Yes, it is. The waiter appeared again, pen poised over his pad. Are we ready to order? Adrian looked at Lily. Lily looked at Adrian. Give us a minute, she said. When the waiter left, she leaned back in her chair, studying Adrian with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but wasn't. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Why did you really come here tonight? And don't say just to thank a friend. People don't save for 2 months for a thank you dinner. Adrian ran a hand through his hair, already regretting the gel Marcus had insisted he use. You're right, it wasn't just that. He hesitated, then figured honesty was the only card he had left to play. I've got a kid, Jamie. He's 7. His mom, she's not around, hasn't been for a few years. And I work all the time, and I'm tired all the time, and some days I feel like I'm just treading water, barely keeping my head up. Lily didn't interrupt, didn't offer empty reassurances. She just listened. Dave helped me out when I needed it, Adrian continued. Really helped me. And I wanted to do something that mattered. Something more than just buying him a beer at some dive bar. I wanted to do it right, even if it meant eating somewhere I can't afford and wearing a shirt that doesn't fit. When he finished, the silence between them felt different, heavier, real. That's not treading water, Lily said finally. That's called doing your best. Doesn't always feel like enough. It never does. Adrian met her eyes. You sound like you know something about that. More than I'd like. The waiter returned, patient but persistent. This time, Lily picked up the menu. Stay, she said to Adrian. Have dinner with me. Real dinner. Not some weird obligation thing. Just 2 people who both got stood up. I can't afford. It's on me. No, I'm not. Adrian. She said his name like she'd known him for years, not minutes. I'm sitting in a restaurant I hate, waiting for a friend who ditched me, in a city where everyone knows my name but no one knows me. And you're the first person in months who's talked to me like I'm an actual human being. So please, let me buy you dinner. He should have said no. Should have walked out, found a diner, gone home to Jamie and Marcus and the life that made sense. But he didn't. Okay, he said, but I'm buying next time. Lily's smile came back, small but genuine. Deal. They ordered, Lily choosing for both of them, navigating the menu with ease, asking Adrian what he liked and didn't like, steering them toward dishes that were good but not pretentious. The food arrived in waves, each played a work of art that actually tasted like something. And they talked. Not small talk, real talk. Adrian told her about Jamie, how he'd started reading on his own, how he was obsessed with dinosaurs, how he asked a million questions Adrian didn't always have answers to. He told her about the shop, about the satisfaction of fixing an engine that everyone else had given up on, about the regular customers who'd become something like friends. Lily told him about growing up with a last name that opened every door, but also closed her in. About a father who saw her as an extension of the company, a mother who'd passed away when she was 12, leaving her to navigate a world of expectations alone. About Caroline and the handful of other people she called friends, who loved the idea of her more than the reality. Do you ever feel like you're playing a part? Lily asked, halfway through the second course. Like you're acting out someone else's script? Every damn day, Adrian said. I love my kid. I love him more than anything. But some mornings I wake up and I don't recognize my own life. I'm 32, I'm raising a kid alone, I'm running a business that barely breaks even most months. And I think, how did I get here? This wasn't the plan. What was the plan? Adrian shrugged. I don't know. I don't think I ever had one. Just forward, keep moving forward. That's more than most people have. They fell into a rhythm, the conversation flowing easy, despite the absurdity of the situation. Lily laughed, really laughed, when Adrian described Jamie's attempt to help at the shop last weekend, which had resulted in a bucket of oil tipping over and both of them covered head to toe. Adrian found himself leaning in, drawn by the way Lily's whole demeanor changed when she stopped performing, stopped holding herself like she was on display. Dessert came. Some kind of chocolate thing with gold leaf that Adrian was pretty sure was just for show. They shared it, trading the plate back and forth, and somewhere in the middle of it Lily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression shuddered. "What?" Adrian asked. "Nothing, just my father asking where I am." "You didn't tell him?" "I don't tell him much these days." There was an edge in her voice, something bitter and old. Adrian didn't push. When the check came, Lily handed over a black card without looking at it. The waiter took it like it was made of glass, disappeared, returned with a leather folder that Lily signed without checking the total. They stood, gathering their things, and suddenly the night felt like it was ending too fast. Outside, the air was cool, the city alive with car horns and distant music. Adrian walked Lily to the curb where a sleek black car was already waiting. "That's yours?" he asked. "Driver," she said. "Part of the package." She opened the door but didn't get in. Instead, she turned to him, and for a moment she looked like she was deciding something. "Can I see you again?" she asked. Adrian's heart kicked. "Why?" "Because tonight I didn't have to pretend, and I can't remember the last time that was true." He should have said no, should have recognized the gap between their worlds and walked away clean. But Jamie's voice echoed in his head, the way he'd asked just that morning, "Dad, are you happy?" And Adrian hadn't known how to answer. "Yeah," he said. "I'd like that." Lily smiled, real, unguarded, beautiful. She pulled out her phone. "Give me your number." He did. She typed it in, sent him a text so he'd have hers. "I'll call you." "Okay." She got into the car and the door closed with a soft, expensive thunk. Adrian watched it pull away, the taillights disappearing into the river of traffic. He stood there on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, replaying the whole night in his head. The wrong table, the right stranger, a conversation that felt like stepping out of a script he'd been reading from for years. His phone buzzed. "Lily, thank you for staying." Adrian smiled and typed back, "Thank you for asking." He walked the 12 blocks home because he couldn't afford a cab and didn't care. The air felt colder now, sharper, but he barely noticed. His mind was full of Lily's laugh, of the way she'd looked at him like he wasn't just a mechanic with dirty hands and an old jacket, of the strange, fragile possibility that maybe, just maybe, the wrong table had been the right place all along. When he got home, Marcus was on the couch, half asleep in front of some crime show. "How'd it go?" Marcus mumbled. "Weird," Adrian said. "Good weird or bad weird?" Adrian thought about it. "I have no idea." He checked on Jamie, who was sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging off the edge, mouth open, dead to the world. Adrian pulled the blanket up over his son's shoulders, kissed his forehead, and stood there for a long moment, just watching him breathe. Then he went to his own room, lay down in the dark, and stared at the ceiling. His phone buzzed again. "Lily, are you free tomorrow night?" Adrian stared at the screen. Tomorrow was a work night. He had 2 cars to finish, an oil change scheduled, and Jamie's soccer practice at 5. His life was full, packed tight with responsibilities that didn't leave room for expensive dinners and women whose drivers waited at the curb. But he thought about Lily's eyes, about the way she'd said she couldn't remember the last time she didn't have to pretend. He thought about his own answer to Jamie's question, the one he hadn't been able to give. He typed, "I can be." "Lily, good. Forget fancy restaurants. Meet me at Morrison Park. 7 o'clock. Bring your kid if you want. I'd like to meet him." Adrian's breath caught. She wanted to meet Jamie. On the second date, if this even counted as a date. That should have been a red flag, a sign to slow down, to think. But instead, he felt something loosen in his chest, something that had been pulled tight for so long he'd forgotten it was there. "Adrian, okay, see you tomorrow." He set the phone down, closed his eyes, and for the first time in months, he fell asleep without running through the next day's to-do list, without calculating bills in his head, without wondering if he was doing enough. He just slept, and dreamed of a woman with tired eyes and a smile that felt like coming home. Morrison Park on a Thursday evening was chaos dressed up as recreation. Kids screaming on the playground, dogs chasing tennis balls, joggers weaving through clusters of people sitting on blankets. Adrian held Jamie's hand as they walked through the main gate, scanning the crowd for Lily. "Who are we meeting?" Jamie asked for the third time. "A friend." "What kind of friend?" "Just a friend, buddy." "Is she your girlfriend?" Adrian stopped. "What? No. Where'd you get that idea?" Jamie shrugged, his dinosaur backpack bouncing on his shoulders. "Uncle Marcus said you had a fancy date last night. He said you wore his shirt." "Uncle Marcus talks too much." "So is she?" "No, she's just someone I met. We're hanging out." "That's what Uncle Marcus said about Lisa before she became his girlfriend." "Yeah, well, Uncle Marcus also thought he could fix the microwave with duct tape, so maybe he's not the best source." Jamie giggled, and Adrian felt some of the tension ease out of his shoulders. He'd been wound tight all day, second-guessing this whole thing. Bringing Jamie to meet Lily felt too fast, too much. But she'd asked, and something in the way she'd asked made it feel like it mattered. "There," Jamie pointed. Lily stood near the fountain, wearing jeans and a plain white t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked different without the dress, younger, more uncertain. When she saw them, she raised her hand in a small wave. Adrian waved back and walked over, Jamie's hand still in his. "Hi," Lily said. "Hi." They stood there for a beat, the awkwardness of last night's ease suddenly replaced by daylight reality. Then Jamie stepped forward. "I'm Jamie. I'm 7. Are you my dad's girlfriend?" Adrian closed his eyes. "Jamie?" Lily laughed, crouching down to Jamie's level. "Hi, Jamie. I'm Lily. And no, I'm not. I'm just a friend." "That's what Dad said. But Uncle Marcus said—" "Uncle Marcus says a lot of things," Adrian interrupted. "Most of them wrong." Lily smiled up at him, then back at Jamie. "I like your backpack. Is that a Tyrannosaurus?" Jamie's face lit up. "Yeah. Do you know about dinosaurs?" "A little. I know the T-Rex had really short arms. That's because they didn't need them for hunting. They used their jaws. Their bite force was like—" Jamie threw his arms wide. "Super strong. Strong enough to crush bones." "Wow. Do you want to see my dinosaur book? I brought it." Before Adrian could say anything, Jamie had his backpack off and was pulling out a battered book with a T-Rex on the cover. Lily sat down right there on the grass, and Jamie plopped down next to her, flipping pages and launching into explanations that were part fact, part enthusiastic guesswork. Adrian stood there watching them, something strange happening in his chest. Lily listened like Jamie's rambling mattered, asking questions, letting him point out every detail. She didn't check her phone, didn't glance around to see who was watching. She just sat in the grass with a 7-year-old and talked about dinosaurs. After 10 minutes, Jamie's attention shifted to the playground. "Can I go on the swings?" "Yeah," Adrian said. "Stay where I can see you." Jamie took off running, and Lily stood brushing grass off her jeans. "He's great," she said. "He's a lot." "He's great," she repeated, firmer this time. They walked toward a bench near the playground, settling in where they could watch Jamie climb the ladder to the slide. "Thank you for coming," Lily said. "I wasn't sure you would." "Why?" "Because this is weird, right? We don't know each other. We met by accident, and here we are, in a park, like—" She trailed off. "Like what?" "Like normal people." Adrian looked at her. "You say that like you're not." "Most days I'm not sure what I am." Jamie went down the slide, then ran back to do it again. Other kids swarmed around him, and within seconds he was part of a group, all of them taking turns, laughing, pushing each other in the way kids did. "He makes friends easy," Adrian said. "I've never been good at that." "You made a friend last night." "Did I?" Lily met his eyes. "I think so. Unless you make a habit of having dinner with strangers." "First time, actually." "Me too." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the park move around them. Then Lily spoke again, quieter. "My father called me this morning. 3 times. What'd he want? To know where I was last night, who I was with." She picked at a thread on her jeans. "He has people who keep track of me. Not all the time, but enough. Someone must have seen me at Estelle's." Adrian's stomach tightened. And I told him it was none of his business." "How'd that go?" "About as well as you'd expect." She exhaled slowly. "He doesn't like it when I don't answer questions." Does he do that a lot? Ask about your life? He doesn't ask. He monitors. There's a difference. That sounds controlling, invasive. Yeah. Lily's jaw set. It's how he operates. Information is power. If he knows where I am, who I'm with, what I'm doing, then he can manage it. Manage me. Adrian didn't know what to say to that. His life was complicated, but it was his. No one tracked him. No one needed to approve his choices. Why do you let him? He asked. Lily turned to him, and for a second he thought he'd crossed a line, but then she just looked tired. Because fighting him takes energy I don't always have, and because the few times I've tried, he's made sure I regretted it. How? He's good at finding pressure points. A friend who needs a job suddenly doesn't get the interview. A donation to a charity I care about gets pulled. Nothing direct. Nothing I can point to and say, you did this, but I know. Jamie was at the top of the climbing structure now, waving. Adrian waved back. That's messed up, he said. Yes, it is. So why are you here if he's going to make it difficult? Because I'm tired of living like I'm in a cage. Lily's voice sharpened. I'm 28 years old. I have a degree I don't use, a job I don't want, and a life that feels like it belongs to someone else. And last night, for 2 hours, I didn't feel that way. So yeah, maybe this is reckless. Maybe I'll regret it. But right now, I don't care. Adrian looked at her, really looked. The exhaustion was still there, but underneath it was something else. Defiance. A flicker of fight. Okay, he said. Okay? Okay, let's be reckless. Lily's mouth curved into a smile, and just like that, the tension broke. They stayed at the park until the sun started to set, the sky turning orange and pink. Jamie played until he was sweaty and grass-stained, finally collapsing on the bench between them, panting. I'm starving, he announced. When are you not starving? Adrian asked. Never. My stomach is like a black hole. It just eats and eats and eats. Lily laughed. What do you want to eat? Jamie thought about it with the seriousness of a judge deliberating a case. Tacos. Tacos it is, Lily said. I know a place. The place turned out to be a taco truck parked 2 blocks from the park, the kind with a line that wrapped around the corner and a menu scrawled on a chalkboard. They waited in line, Jamie bouncing on his toes, already listing everything he wanted. You come here a lot? Adrian asked Lily. Used to, when I was in college. Before... She stopped. Before what? Before my father decided I needed to start acting like a Whitmore. They ordered. Too much food, but Jamie's eyes were bigger than his stomach, and Lily kept adding things, ignoring Adrian's protest that he could pay. They found a spot on a low wall nearby, balancing paper plates on their laps, eating with their hands while grease dripped down their fingers. This is the best thing I've ever eaten, Jamie declared through a mouthful of carnitas. Better than my cooking? Adrian asked. Way better. Traitor, Lily grinned, biting into her own taco. A piece of cilantro stuck to her lip, and she wiped it away, laughing at herself. She looked nothing like the woman from last night, polished, controlled, performing. She looked real. When they finished, Jamie leaned against Adrian's side, full and content. Lily watched them, something soft in her expression. What? Adrian asked. Nothing. You're just good at this. At what? Being a dad. Adrian shrugged. I'm figuring it out as I go. Most days I have no idea what I'm doing. You could have fooled me. Jamie yawned, and Adrian checked his watch. Almost 8. Past bedtime on a school night. We should head home, he said. Lily nodded, but didn't move. Can I walk with you? Part of the way, at least. Yeah, sure. They walked slowly through the neighborhood, Jamie between them, holding both their hands. He chattered about his day, about the slide, about the tacos, his words getting slower and sleepier as they went. By the time they reached Adrian's building, Jamie was barely awake, leaning heavy against Adrian's leg. This is us, Adrian said, nodding at the old brick building with its chipped paint and crooked front steps. Lily looked up at it, and Adrian waited for the judgment, the subtle shift in her expression that would say what she was too polite to speak out loud. But it didn't come. It looks like a good place to grow up, she said. It's loud and the heat barely works in winter, but yeah, it's home. Jamie mumbled something about dinosaurs, his eyes already closed. I should get him inside, Adrian said. Okay. They stood there, neither moving. Can I see you again? Lily asked. You keep asking me that. Because I keep wanting the answer to be yes. Adrian looked down at Jamie, then back at Lily. Yeah, you can. When? I work most nights, and Jamie's got school and soccer, and I'll work around it, Lily said quickly. Whatever works for you. Adrian hesitated. This was moving fast, too fast. But when he looked at Lily, all he saw was someone who wanted the same thing he did, a break from the script, a chance to be something other than what everyone expected. Saturday, he said. Jamie's got a sleepover at Marcus's. I'm free after 6. Okay, Saturday. Lily reached out, hesitated, then squeezed his hand once. Her palm was warm, her grip firm. Good night, Adrian. Good night. She walked away, disappearing into the city's evening crowd, and Adrian scooped Jamie into his arms, carrying him up the stairs to their apartment. Marcus was in the hallway, taking out the trash, and he raised an eyebrow when he saw them. How'd it go? Good, Adrian said. Just good? Really good, Marcus grinned. Told you that shirt would work. The next 2 weeks blurred together in a way Adrian hadn't experienced in years. Days at the shop, grease and exhaust, and the steady rhythm of work. Nights with Jamie, homework and bedtime stories, and the routines that kept their small world turning. And in between, moments with Lily that felt like stepping into a different life. They met for coffee at a diner near Adrian's shop, sitting in a cracked vinyl booth while Lily asked him about engines, and he tried to explain fuel injectors in a way that made sense. They went to a bookstore where Jamie dragged them both to the kids' section, piling books into Lily's arms until she laughingly surrendered and bought the whole stack. They walked through the city at night after Jamie was asleep, talking about everything and nothing, their conversations weaving through childhood memories and half-formed dreams. Lily told him about her mother, how she'd died suddenly when Lily was 12, leaving her alone with a father who buried his grief in work and control. How she'd spent her teenage years trying to be perfect, trying to fill the space her mother left, only to realize it was impossible. Adrian told her about Jamie's mother, Sarah, who'd left when Jamie was 2. How she'd struggled with things Adrian didn't understand until it was too late. How one day she was there and the next she was gone. A note on the kitchen table and an empty closet. How he'd been angry for a long time, then just tired. Then finally something close to acceptance. Do you ever hear from her? Lily asked. No, she sends a birthday card sometimes. Always late, always generic. Does Jamie ask about her? Used to. Not so much anymore. Adrian stared at his coffee. I don't know if that's better or worse. Lily reached across the table, her fingers brushing his wrist. You're enough. For him. You know that, right? Adrian wanted to believe her. Some days he did. They kept it quiet, their time together carved out in stolen hours that didn't overlap with the rest of their lives. Lily didn't talk about her father, and Adrian didn't push. It felt fragile, this thing between them, like speaking it out loud might break it. But the cracks started showing. It was a Tuesday when Lily's phone rang during lunch. She glanced at the screen, and her whole body tensed. I have to take this, she said. Okay. She stepped outside the diner, and through the window, Adrian watched her pace, one hand pressed to her forehead, her mouth moving in sharp, clipped words. When she came back, her face was pale. Everything okay? Adrian asked. Fine. She sat down, but her hands were shaking. Just work stuff. Lily. It's fine, Adrian, really. But it wasn't fine. He could see it in the way she barely touched her food, the way her eyes kept drifting to her phone like she was waiting for it to detonate. That night, she texted him at midnight. I'm sorry about today. Can we talk tomorrow? Adrian. Of course. What time? Lily. I'll let you know. But she didn't. The next day came and went with no word. Adrian told himself not to worry, that she was busy, that this was normal. But by the third day of silence, worry turned to something else, something cold. On the 4th day, she finally called. I'm sorry, she said as soon as he answered. Where have you been? Dealing with my father. She stopped, exhaled. He knows about you. Adrian's grip tightened on the phone. What does that mean? It means he's asking questions. A lot of questions. About who you are, what you do, why I'm spending time with you. And what did you tell him? The truth, that you're someone I care about. How'd he take it? Lily laughed, but it was bitter. About as well as you'd imagine. He thinks you're... She paused. He thinks you're using me. Adrian felt the words land like a punch. Using you. For money. For access. He's convinced you're trying to get something out of me. And what do you think? I think he's paranoid and controlling, and I don't care what he thinks. But her voice cracked on the last word, and Adrian knew it wasn't that simple. Lily, if this is going to cause problems, I don't care about problems. I do. I've got a kid. I can't... He stopped, trying to find the right words. I can't have drama in my life. Jamie doesn't need that. I know. I'm not trying to bring drama. I'm trying to live my own life. But my father doesn't understand that. Adrian closed his eyes, leaning against the wall of the shop. Outside, traffic hummed. Inside, his mind raced. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to keep seeing you. Even if it makes things harder? Especially if it makes things harder. Adrian wanted to say yes, wanted to tell her to forget her father, to choose this, to choose him. But he thought about Jamie, about the careful balance of their life, about what happened when you pulled at threads that held things together. I need to think, he said. Lily was quiet for a long time. Okay? I'm not saying no, I need to think. I understand. But she didn't. He could hear it in her voice, the hurt she was trying to hide. I'll call you soon, Adrian said. Okay. She hung up, and Adrian stood there in the empty shop, surrounded by the skeletons of half-fixed cars, and wondered what the hell he was doing. That night, after Jamie was asleep, Marcus came over with beer. You look like garbage, Marcus said, handing him a bottle. Thanks. What's going on? Adrian told him. All of it. The park, the tacos, the coffee dates, Lily's father, the phone call. Marcus listened, drinking his beer, not interrupting. When Adrian finished, Marcus leaned back in his chair. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Do you like her? Yeah. Does she like you? I think so. Then what's the problem? The problem is her father. The problem is I've got a kid who doesn't need his life turned upside down because I decided to date someone whose family thinks I'm a gold digger. Is that what you think, or is that what you're afraid they'll make you believe? Adrian stared at him. What? You've been alone for a long time, man, and you're good at it. Good at handling your life, taking care of Jamie, keeping everything under control. But maybe, Marcus paused, choosing his words, maybe being good at being alone doesn't mean you have to stay that way. This isn't about being alone. This is about being smart. No, it's about being scared. Adrian wanted to argue, but the words stuck in his throat because Marcus was right. He was scared. Scared of what it meant to let someone in. Scared of what happened when things fell apart. Scared that he wasn't enough for someone like Lily, and that eventually she'd realize it too. What if it doesn't work? Adrian said quietly. What if it does? Adrian didn't have an answer for that. He didn't call Lily that night, or the next day. He threw himself into work, fixing a transmission that didn't need fixing, organizing parts that were already organized, anything to keep his hands busy and his mind blank. But on the third day, Jamie asked about her. When are we going to see Lily again? Adrian looked up from the carburetor he was cleaning. I don't know, buddy. Why not? Because it's complicated. Is she mad at you? No. Are you mad at her? No. Then why can't we see her? Adrian put down the wrench. Sometimes things don't work out the way we want, Jamie, even when we want them to. Jamie frowned, thinking. Uncle Marcus says you're scared. Uncle Marcus needs to keep his mouth shut. He says you're scared of being happy. Adrian felt something crack in his chest. Jamie? I liked Lily, Jamie said, his voice small. She was nice, and you smiled a lot when she was around. You don't smile a lot. I smile. Not like that. Adrian sat down on the floor next to his son, pulling him close. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm trying to figure things out. It's okay to be scared, Dad. You tell me that all the time. Yeah, I do. So maybe you should listen to yourself. Adrian laughed, ruffling Jamie's hair. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't always pay attention. That night after Jamie was in bed, Adrian pulled out his phone and stared at Lily's contact. His thumb hovered over the call button. Then he put the phone down and went to bed. But sleep didn't come. He lay there in the dark, thinking about Lily sitting in the grass with Jamie, talking about dinosaurs, about the way she laughed when taco grease dripped down her chin, about the look in her eyes when she'd said, "I'm tired of living like I'm in a cage." He thought about what Marcus had said, about being scared, about being good at being alone. And he thought about Jamie's words. You don't smile a lot. Not like that. At 2 in the morning, Adrian got up, grabbed his phone, and called. Lily answered on the second ring, her voice thick with sleep. Adrian? I'm sorry, he said, for not calling, for making you wait. It's okay. No, it's not. He took a breath. I've been scared. Marcus called me on it, and then Jamie did, and they're both right. I'm scared of screwing this up. Scared of what happens if your father decides I'm a problem. Scared that I'm not... He stopped, the words catching. That I'm not enough. Adrian, but I'm more scared of not trying. Because you were right. When I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm just going through the motions. I feel like I'm actually living, and I don't want to give that up, not without a fight. Lily was quiet, and for a horrible second, Adrian thought he'd waited too long, that the moment had passed. Then she spoke, and her voice was steady, clear. Then don't. Okay? Okay? Yeah, let's do this. Whatever this is, let's figure it out. He could hear her smile through the phone. Okay? But I need you to know Jamie comes first, always. If this gets messy, if it puts him in a bad spot, I'll walk away. I have to. I understand, and I wouldn't want you to do anything else. They talked for another hour, about nothing important, just the sound of each other's voices filling the space between them. When they finally hung up, Adrian felt lighter than he had in days. He didn't know what came next, didn't know how to navigate the world Lily came from or what her father would do when he realized Adrian wasn't going anywhere. But for the first time in a long time, he wasn't just surviving. He was choosing to be reckless, choosing to fight, choosing her. The choice felt right for exactly 3 days. Saturday came, and Adrian met Lily at a small Italian place she'd picked, tucked into a neighborhood he'd never been to before. No reservations, no waiters in suits, just red checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic bread that hit you the second you walked in. They sat in a corner booth, sharing a pizza that was too big and a bottle of wine that Lily ordered without looking at the price. This is perfect, Adrian said, wiping sauce from his chin. Lily smiled, relaxed in a way he hadn't seen before. I used to come here in college, before everything got complicated. When did it get complicated? The day my mother died. She said it plainly, without drama, but Adrian saw the weight behind the words. After that, my father decided I needed structure, protection, which really just meant control. And you let him? I was 12. What was I supposed to do? She took a sip of wine. By the time I was old enough to fight back, the walls were already built. Adrian reached across the table, covering her hand with his. You're fighting now. Yeah, I am. They left the restaurant after 10, walking through streets lit by shop windows and streetlights, their shoulders brushing. Lily leaned into him and Adrian slipped his arm around her waist, feeling the warmth of her through the thin fabric of her sweater. I don't want tonight to end, she said. Then let's not end it yet. They walked for another hour, talking and not talking, just being together in a way that felt easy and right. When Adrian finally put her in a cab, she'd sent her driver home earlier, insisting she didn't need the surveillance, he kissed her. Just once, soft and brief, but it landed like a promise. I'll call you tomorrow, he said. You better. He watched the cab disappear, then walked home with his hands in his pockets and a stupid grin he couldn't shake. Sunday he spent with Jamie, taking him to the Science Museum where they spent 3 hours looking at fossils and pressing every interactive button they could find. Monday was back to work, but Adrian moved through the day lighter, humming under his breath while he rotated tires and changed oil. Marcus noticed. You're in a good mood. Am I not allowed to be in a good mood? You are. It's just weird. You're usually in a the world is heavy and I'm tired mood. Maybe I'm less tired. Or maybe you're getting laid. Adrian threw a rag at him. Shut up. But Marcus just laughed, and Adrian didn't bother denying it because the truth was, he felt good. Better than good. For the first time in years, he felt like maybe things could work out. That feeling lasted until Tuesday. Adrian was under a Honda Civic draining the oil pan when his phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again and again. Someone really wants to talk to you, Marcus called from across the shop. Adrian rolled out from under the car, wiping his hands on his coveralls, and checked the screen. Unknown number, he answered. Yeah? Is this Adrian Cole? The voice was male, smooth, professional. Who's asking? My name is Richard Whitmore. I believe you know my daughter. Adrian's stomach dropped. He stood up, walking toward the office for privacy. Yeah, I know Lily. Good. I'd like to meet you, today if possible. Why? Because I make it a point to know who my daughter spends her time with, and because I think we should have a conversation, man to man. Adrian's jaw tightened. I'm working. I'm sure you can spare an hour. I'll make it worth your time. I don't need your money. I'm not offering money, Mr. Cole. I'm offering a conversation, unless you prefer I draw my own conclusions about your intentions. The threat was subtle but clear. Adrian closed his eyes, counting to 5. Where? My office, downtown. I'll have my assistant send you the address. Fine. What time? 3 o'clock. Don't be late. The line went dead. Adrian stood there, phone in hand, feeling the good mood drain out of him like oil from a cracked pan. Marcus appeared in the doorway. You okay? No? What happened? Lily's father wants to meet. Marcus whistled low. That's not good. No, it's not. At 2:30, Adrian changed out of his coveralls and into the cleanest pair of jeans he had and a button-down shirt he kept in his locker for emergencies. He scrubbed the grease from under his nails as best he could, but some stains didn't come out. They were part of him now, written into the skin. The address led him to a building in the financial district, all glass and steel, the kind of place that made you feel small just walking through the doors. Security checked his ID, made a call, then directed him to the 32nd floor. The elevator ride felt like descending into a different world. Quiet, controlled, everything polished to a shine that reflected nothing back. The doors opened onto a reception area with marble floors and a desk where a woman in a gray suit sat typing. She looked up as Adrian approached. Adrian Cole? Yeah. Mr. Whitmore is expecting you. This way. She led him down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably cost more than Adrian made in a year. At the end, she opened a heavy wooden door. Go ahead. Adrian stepped inside. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city. The view so expansive it felt like you could see everything, control everything, from up here. The furniture was dark wood and leather, the kind that smelled expensive. And behind the desk sat Richard Whitmore. He was older than Adrian expected, maybe mid-50s, with gray at his temples and lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled rarely. He wore a suit that fit perfectly, his tie knotted tight, his posture straight. He looked at Adrian the way you'd look at a bug you were deciding whether to crush. Mr. Cole, thank you for coming. He didn't stand, didn't offer to shake hands, just gestured to the chair across from his desk. Sit. Adrian sat. Richard studied him for a long moment, and Adrian forced himself not to fidget, not to look away. He dealt with difficult customers before, people who thought they could intimidate him because he worked with his hands. He knew how to hold his ground. Let me be direct, Richard said finally. I know you've been seeing my daughter. I know where you work, where you live, and that you have a son. I also know your financial situation, which is precarious at best. Adrian's hands curled into fists on his lap. Is this the part where you offer me money to disappear? No, this is the part where I explain reality to you. Richard leaned back in his chair. Lily is my only child. She's brilliant, capable, and she has a future that extends far beyond whatever she thinks she's found with you. But she's also impulsive, emotional. She makes decisions based on feelings rather than logic. And you think I'm one of those decisions. I think you're a distraction, a phase, something she's using to rebel against me. Adrian laughed, sharp and bitter. You don't know her at all, do you? Richard's expression didn't change. I know my daughter better than anyone. I've raised her, protected her, built a life for her that most people can't even imagine. And I'm not going to let her throw that away because she's lonely and you happen to be in the right place at the right time. She's not lonely because of me. She's lonely because of you. For the first time, something flickered in Richard's eyes. Anger, maybe, or recognition. Be careful, Mr. Cole. You're here because I'm giving you the courtesy of a warning, but don't mistake courtesy for weakness. What warning? That if you continue this relationship, I will make it very difficult for you. I won't offer you money. I won't threaten you directly. But I have resources you can't imagine, and I will use them to protect my daughter from making a mistake that could define the rest of her life. Adrian stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. You want to threaten me? Fine. But don't pretend it's about protecting Lily. This is about control. You're scared she's choosing something you didn't pick for her. Sit down. No. Adrian's voice was steady, hard. I came here because you asked. I listened because I respect Lily enough to try to understand where you're coming from. But I'm not going to sit here and let you tell me I'm not good enough for her when you don't even know me. I know enough. You know what your people told you. You know numbers on a bank statement and an address in a part of town you've never been to. You don't know that I work 70 hours a week to give my son a good life. You don't know that Lily smiles when she's with me in a way I'm guessing you haven't seen in years. And you don't know that she's stronger than you think she is. Richard stood now too, his hands flat on the desk. You're right, I don't know those things, and I don't care. What I care about is that my daughter has a future that doesn't involve being dragged down by someone who can't provide for her. She doesn't need me to provide for her. She needs someone who sees her as more than a chess piece. And you think that's you? I think I'm trying, which is more than I can say for you. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Richard's jaw worked, his eyes cold, and Adrian knew he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. Get out, Richard said quietly. Gladly. Adrian turned and walked out, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. He didn't look back, didn't stop until he was outside, breathing the city air, his hands shaking with adrenaline. He called Lily as soon as he hit the street. She answered immediately. Adrian, what's wrong? I just met your father. What? When? Why didn't you tell me? Because he called me this morning and told me to come to his office. I didn't want to worry you until I knew what it was about. What did he say? Adrian exhaled, leaning against a building. He said I'm a distraction, a phase, that I'm not good enough for you, and if I don't walk away, he'll make my life difficult. Lily was silent for a beat. When she spoke, her voice was shaking. I'm going to kill him. Lily? No. This is exactly what he does. He can't control me, so he goes after the people around me. I'm so sorry, Adrian. I should have warned you. I should have... It's okay. It's not okay. I know, but I don't care what he thinks. I told him that. What did you say? Adrian hesitated, then decided honesty was all he had left. I told him he doesn't know you, that he's scared of losing control, and that you're stronger than he gives you credit for. Lily made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. You said that to my father. Yeah. He must have lost his mind. Pretty much. Adrian, this is going to get worse. He's not going to just let this go. I know. So what do we do? Adrian looked up at the sky, at the buildings towering around him, and felt the weight of what he was about to say. We keep going. We don't let him win. Are you sure? No, but I'm sure about you, and that's enough. Lily was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was steadier. Okay, then we fight. Together. Together. But fighting was harder than either of them anticipated. Over the next 2 weeks, Adrian's life started unraveling in small, deliberate ways. A contract with a regular client got canceled without explanation. The landlord of his shop building called to say the lease renewal was being delayed pending an inspection that had never been mentioned before. His bank notified him of an audit on his business account. Routine, but time-consuming and invasive. None of it was catastrophic. None of it could be traced directly back to Richard Whitmore, but Adrian knew, and so did Lily. He's doing this, she said one night over the phone, her voice tight with anger. All of it. He's pulling strings. I know. I'm going to confront him. That's not going to help. I don't care. I'm not going to let him destroy your life because he doesn't approve of me making my own choices. Lily, listen to me. If you confront him, it'll just make it worse. He wants you to react. He wants you to prove him right, that I'm causing problems in your life. You're not causing problems. He is. I know. But he won't see it that way. Lily was silent, and Adrian could hear her breathing, could picture her pacing in whatever room she was in, trying to find a way to fix this. I hate this, she said finally. Me too. I just want to be with you without it being a war. I know. But the war was already here, whether they wanted it or not. Things came to a head on a Thursday. Adrian was at Jamie's school for a parent-teacher conference when his phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. You need to get back to the shop, now. Adrian excused himself, apologized to Jamie's teacher, and drove back faster than he should have. When he pulled up, he saw it immediately. The front window of the shop was shattered, glass scattered across the sidewalk. Marcus stood outside, arms crossed, talking to a police officer. Adrian parked and got out, his stomach sinking. What happened? Marcus turned to him, his expression grim. Someone threw a brick through the window. No cameras caught it. No witnesses. When? About an hour ago. Adrian looked at the damage, at the jagged hole in the glass, at the brick sitting on the floor inside surrounded by shards. This wasn't random, he said quietly. No, it wasn't. The officer took Adrian's statement, asked the usual questions, then left with a promise to file a report that they both knew wouldn't lead anywhere. When he was gone, Adrian and Marcus stood in the wreckage. This is getting out of hand, Marcus said. I know. You need to tell Lily. I will. But when Adrian called her that night, he couldn't bring himself to say the words. Instead, he told her about Jamie's teacher conference, about the new book Jamie was reading, about anything but the broken window and the clear message it sent. Lily knew something was wrong. Are you okay? Yeah, just tired. Adrian, I'm fine, Lily, really. But he wasn't fine, and she knew it. The next day, she showed up at the shop unannounced. Adrian was sweeping up the last of the glass when he heard her voice. Adrian. He turned. She stood in the doorway, dressed in jeans and a jacket, her hair pulled back, her face set in a way that meant she wasn't leaving until she got answers. What are you doing here? Marcus called me. Adrian shot a glare at Marcus, who was suddenly very interested in organizing tools across the room. He shouldn't have done that. He did me a favor. Lily stepped inside, her eyes on the boarded-up window. What happened? It's nothing, just don't lie to me. Adrian set the broom down, wiping his hands on his jeans. Someone threw a brick through the window. The cops don't know who. But I have a pretty good idea. Lily's face went pale. My father. I don't have proof, but yeah, I think so. This is... She stopped, pressing her hands to her face. This is my fault. No, it's not. Yes, it is. If I hadn't dragged you into my life, you didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this. I chose you. And look what it's costing you. Adrian crossed the space between them, taking her hands in his. Hey, look at me. She did, her eyes bright with tears she was fighting to hold back. This isn't on you, he said. Your father is the one doing this, not you. And I'm not going to let him scare me away. He's not going to stop, Adrian. He's going to keep pushing until you break. Then he's going to be disappointed. Lily shook her head. You don't understand. He always wins. Always. And I can't watch him destroy you because I'm too selfish to walk away. You're not selfish. I am. I want you, and I don't care what it costs, but I should care. I should... Adrian kissed her, hard and desperate and full of everything he couldn't say. When he pulled back, Lily was crying. I love you, he said. The words came out rough, unplanned, but they were true. I don't care if it's too soon or if it's stupid or if it makes everything harder. I love you. Lily stared at him, her breath catching. Adrian, you don't have to say it back. I just need you to know. I love you too, she whispered. And that's why this terrifies me. They stood there in the broken shop holding each other, and for a moment it felt like maybe love was enough. But the world outside didn't stop, and Richard Whitmore didn't stop. That night, Lily went home and did something she hadn't done in years. She walked into her father's study without knocking. He looked up from his desk, surprised. "Lily, I thought you were staying at Caroline's tonight. I need to talk to you." Richard set down his pen, his expression shifting to caution. "All right. You need to stop." "Stop what?" "You know what, the canceled contracts, the lease issues, the window." Richard's face didn't change. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And it ends now." "Lily, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset. I'm done." She stepped closer to his desk, her voice steady and cold. "You want to control my life? Fine. But you don't get to destroy someone else's because you're scared of losing that control. I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to own me. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't stop, I'm gone. I'll leave, and you'll never see me again." Richard stood, his jaw tight. "You don't mean that. Try me." They stared at each other across the desk, years of unspoken tension crackling between them. "He's not right for you," Richard said finally. "That's not your decision to make. He can't give you the life you deserve. He gives me something you never have. He sees me. Not the Whitmore name, not the company legacy, me." Richard's expression cracked, just for a second, and Lily saw something she hadn't expected. Fear. "I can't lose you," he said quietly. "Then stop pushing me away." They stood in silence, and Lily wondered if maybe, just maybe, she'd gotten through to him. But Richard Whitmore didn't stay vulnerable for long. His face hardened again, the wall rebuilding itself. "I'll think about what you've said. That's not good enough. It's what I'm offering." Lily turned and walked out, knowing the fight wasn't over, knowing it might never be. She called Adrian on the drive home. "I talked to him," she said. "And?" "And I don't think it worked." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "What do we do now?" "I don't know, but I'm not giving up." "Neither am I." But even as they said the words, both of them felt the cracks forming, the pressure building, the sense that something was about to break, and when it did, there would be no putting it back together. The break came on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after Lily's confrontation with her father. Adrian was dropping Jamie off at school when his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but local. He answered while Jamie grabbed his backpack from the back seat. "Mr. Cole? This is David Chen from First Union Bank." Adrian's grip tightened on the phone. "Yeah?" "I'm calling regarding your business loan. We need to discuss some concerns that have come up during our review process." "What concerns? I've never missed a payment." "I understand that, but we've received information that suggests your business may be facing financial instability. We'd like to schedule a meeting to go over your accounts and assess whether we need to adjust the terms of your loan." Adrian felt his chest constrict. "Financial instability? From who?" "I'm not at liberty to say, but we take these matters seriously, Mr. Cole. Can you come in this week?" "I'll check my schedule. The sooner the better. We wouldn't want this to escalate." The call ended, and Adrian sat in his truck, staring at the steering wheel. Jamie had already run inside, waving goodbye through the window. The morning was bright and ordinary, kids streaming into school, parents chatting on the sidewalk, but Adrian felt like the ground was tilting under him. He called Lily. "They're going after my loan," he said when she picked up. "What? Who?" "The bank. They got some anonymous tip that my business is unstable. It's bullshit, Lily. My books are clean. I'm barely making it, but I'm making it." "This is my father." Her voice was flat, certain. "He's on the board of directors at First Union." "Of course he is." "Adrian, I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing. This isn't your fault." But even as he said it, exhaustion crept into his voice. "I just don't know how much more of this I can take." "We'll figure it out. I'll talk to him again." "That's not going to work. Talking doesn't work with him." "Then what do we do?" Adrian closed his eyes. "I don't know." They hung up, and Adrian drove to the shop in a fog. Marcus was already there, working on a brake job, and he took one look at Adrian's face and stopped. "What now?" Adrian told him. Marcus swore, loud and creative. "This guy is relentless." "Yeah. So what are you going to do?" "I'm going to that meeting, and I'm going to show them my books are solid. And then I'm going to figure out how to keep my business afloat while dating someone whose father wants to bury me. That's a hell of a plan. You got a better one? Marcus was quiet for a moment. You could walk away. Adrian looked at him sharply. What? From Lily. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it's an option. If this is going to cost you everything, it's not an option. Adrian, I love her, Marcus. I'm not walking away because her father's a controlling asshole. Even if it means losing the shop? Adrian didn't answer, because he didn't know. That night, after Jamie was asleep, Adrian sat at his kitchen table with a calculator and a stack of bills. He ran the numbers 3 times, trying to find a way to make it work if the bank called his loan. Each time, the answer was the same. He'd have to close the shop, sell the equipment, maybe find work at someone else's garage if they'd hire him. Everything he'd built, gone. His phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Can I come over? Adrian looked around his apartment. The dishes from dinner were still in the sink. Jamie's toys were scattered across the living room floor. The couch had a stain that wouldn't come out no matter how many times he scrubbed it. He texted back, "Not tonight. I'm wiped." Lily, are you okay? Adrian, just need some space to think. Lily, okay. I love you. Adrian stared at those 3 words, feeling them settle heavy in his chest. He typed back, "Love you too." But for the first time since he'd said it, the words felt complicated. The bank meeting was Friday. Adrian brought his accountant, a woman named Marissa who did taxes for half the small businesses in the neighborhood. She walked in with a briefcase full of documentation, her expression all business. David Chen was younger than Adrian expected, maybe 30, with a neat suit and a handshake that felt rehearsed. He led them into a conference room with a view of the parking lot. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Cole." "Let's just get to it," Adrian said. "What's the problem?" Chen opened a folder. "We received information suggesting that your business is operating at a loss and may not be able to sustain current debt obligations." "That's not true." Marissa slid a stack of papers across the table. "Here are his financials for the last 3 years. Profit margins are slim, but consistent. He's never missed a payment on any obligation, including the loan." Chen scanned the papers, his expression neutral. "These numbers do look solid." "Because they are solid," Adrian said. "Whoever told you otherwise is lying." "I can't reveal our sources." "You don't have to. I already know who it is." Chen's jaw tightened. "Mr. Cole, if you're suggesting—" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you. Someone with a lot of influence wants to make my life difficult, and they're using you to do it." "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth," Marissa cut in, her voice calm and professional. "The point is, Mr. Cole's financials speak for themselves. Unless you have concrete evidence of financial instability, calling this loan would be a mistake. One that could open the bank up to legal action for acting on false information." Chen looked between them, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he closed the folder. "I'll need to discuss this with my supervisor, but based on what you've shown me, I don't see grounds for immediate action." "Good," Marissa said, standing. "Then we're done here." Outside in the parking lot, Adrian leaned against his truck and exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. "That was close," Marissa said. "Too close." "Adrian, I don't know what's going on with you, but someone is coming after you hard. You need to be careful." "I know." "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're in over your head." She wasn't wrong. Adrian called Lily on the drive back to the shop. "Meeting's over. They backed off, for now." "Thank God. Your accountant saved my ass, but Lily, this can't keep happening. Every week it's something new. The contracts, the lease, the window, now the bank. I can't fight a war on every front." "I know. I'm trying to fix this." "You can't fix him. We both know that." Lily was quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was small. "What are you saying?" Adrian gripped the steering wheel. "I'm saying I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be with you and keep my life from falling apart." "So what? You want to quit?" "I don't want to, but maybe we need to step back. Just for a while. Until things settle down." "Things aren't going to settle down, Adrian. Not unless we give up completely." "Then what's the answer?" "I don't know." Her voice broke. "I don't know, okay? I'm trying to figure it out, but I can't do it alone. You're not alone. Then why does it feel like you're already halfway out the door? Adrian pulled over, his hands shaking. Because I'm scared. I'm scared that I'm going to lose everything trying to hold on to this. The shop, my stability, my ability to take care of Jamie, and I don't know if loving you is worth that cost. The silence on the other end was deafening. Wow, Lily finally said, her voice hollow. Okay. Lily? No, I get it. I'm not worth the cost. Message received. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. She hung up. Adrian sat there on the side of the road, his phone in his hand, feeling like he'd just driven off a cliff. He didn't call her back, didn't text. He just drove home, picked Jamie up from Marcus's place, and went through the motions of dinner and bedtime and pretending everything was fine. But Jamie wasn't fooled. You're sad, he said when Adrian tucked him in. I'm okay, buddy. Is it because of Lily? Adrian hesitated. Yeah. Did you have a fight? Something like that. Jamie frowned, his small face serious. Are you going to fix it? I don't know how. You could say sorry. It's more complicated than that. Grown-ups always say that, but Uncle Marcus says most problems are just people being too scared to say what they really mean. Adrian looked at his son, this 7-year-old with dinosaur pajamas and a wisdom that cut straight through all the noise. When did you get so smart? I told you. I've always been smart. Adrian kissed his forehead. Get some sleep. Will you fix it? I'll try. But trying felt impossible. The next 2 days passed in a haze. Adrian worked, came home, avoided Marcus's questions, and ignored the texts from Lily that eventually stopped coming. On Sunday, Marcus showed up at his door with Jamie in tow. We're going to the park, Marcus announced. I didn't ask you to... I'm not asking. Jamie wants to go, and you need to get out of this apartment before you turn into a hermit. Adrian wanted to argue, but Jamie was already tugging on his arm, and he didn't have the energy to fight. They went to Morrison Park, the same place where Adrian and Lily had met with Jamie that first time. The memory stung, but Adrian pushed it down. Jamie ran ahead to the playground, and Marcus and Adrian sat on a bench. You look like hell, Marcus said. Thanks. You talked to Lily? No? Why not? Because I don't know what to say. She wants me to keep fighting, and I'm tired, Marcus. I'm so damn tired. So you're just giving up? I'm being realistic. No, you're being scared. Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Look, I get it. Her dad's a nightmare. This whole situation is a mess. But you love her, man. I've known you for 10 years, and I've never seen you like this with anyone. Not even Sarah. Sarah left. Yeah. And you think Lily's going to do the same? I think she's going to realize I'm not worth the fight. Or maybe you're scared you're going to realize she is worth it, and that terrifies you even more. Adrian stared at the playground, watching Jamie climb the monkey bars. What if I can't do it? What if I can't give her what she needs and still take care of Jamie and keep the shop running? What if you can? That's not an answer. It's the only answer there is. You don't know until you try, and right now you're not trying, you're running. Before Adrian could respond, the sky opened up. It started as a drizzle, then turned heavy within seconds. Rain poured down in sheets, soaking everything. Parents grabbed their kids and ran for cars. Marcus swore and pulled his jacket over his head. Jamie! Adrian shouted, scanning the playground. But Jamie was already running toward them, laughing, his hair plastered to his forehead. They sprinted to the truck, piling inside, dripping and breathless. That came out of nowhere, Marcus said, wiping water from his face. Adrian's phone rang. Unknown number again. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Cole? This is Officer Reyes with the city police. We received a call about a disturbance at your business address. We're at the scene now. Adrian's heart stopped. What kind of disturbance? Looks like a break-in. The door's been forced open. You should come down here. I'm on my way. He hung up, his hands shaking. What? Marcus asked. Someone broke into the shop. You've got to be kidding me. Stay with Jamie. I'll call you when I know more. Adrian dropped them at Marcus's apartment and drove through the rain, his windshield wipers barely keeping up. By the time he reached the shop, there were 2 police cars parked outside. their lights flashing red and blue in the downpour. The front door was hanging off its hinges. Inside, the place was trashed. Tools scattered across the floor, drawers pulled open and emptied, paperwork torn and thrown everywhere. The desk in the office was overturned, the filing cabinet tipped on its side. Officer Reyes met him at the door. "Mr. Cole?" "Yeah." "Any idea who might have done this?" Adrian looked at the wreckage and felt something inside him snap. "Yeah, I have an idea. We'll need names." "I can't prove it." "Then we'll need to investigate. Can you tell what's missing?" Adrian walked through the shop, his boots crunching on broken glass. The cash box from this drawer was gone, maybe $200 inside. Some tools were missing, but not the expensive ones. This wasn't about theft. This was a message. He gave his statement to the police, answered their questions, and watched them leave with promises to follow up that he knew wouldn't lead anywhere. When they were gone, Adrian stood in the middle of his destroyed shop and called Lily. She answered on the first ring. "Adrian?" "Someone broke into the shop, trashed the place." "Oh my God. Are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay." His voice was shaking, anger and exhaustion and something close to breaking. "This has to stop, Lily. I can't keep doing this." "I know. I'll talk to him." "Talking doesn't work." "Then what do you want me to do?" Adrian closed his eyes. "I don't know, but I can't. I can't be with you if it means this keeps happening. I have to think about Jamie. I have to think about keeping him safe." "Safe from what?" "My father's not going to hurt him. He's hurting me, and that hurts Jamie. Don't you see? Every time something like this happens, I come home and I have to pretend everything's fine. I have to lie to my kid and tell him we're okay when we're barely hanging on." Lily was crying now. He could hear it. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need space. Real space. We need to stop seeing each other." "For how long?" "I don't know." "Adrian, please." "I'm sorry." His voice cracked. "I love you, but I can't do this anymore." He hung up before she could respond, before he could hear her fall apart, before he could change his mind. Then he sat down in the wreckage of his shop, put his head in his hands, and let himself break. The rain kept falling. Adrian stayed at the shop until midnight, cleaning up what he could, salvaging what was salvageable. His phone buzzed constantly, Lily calling, texting, begging him to talk to her. He ignored everyone. When he finally got home, Marcus was waiting on his couch. "Jamie's asleep in his room," Marcus said. "What happened?" Adrian told him everything, the break-in, the call to Lily, the decision to walk away. Marcus listened without interrupting. When Adrian finished, Marcus just shook his head. "You made a mistake." "I did what I had to do." "No. You did what you were too scared not to do, and you're going to regret it." "Maybe, but at least Jamie will be safe." "Jamie's safe now. What he's not is happy. And neither are you." Adrian didn't have an answer for that. He went to bed that night feeling hollow. Empty in a way that had nothing to do with exhaustion. He'd made the right choice, he told himself. The smart choice. The responsible choice. But it didn't feel right. It felt like giving up. 2 days passed. Adrian threw himself into repairs, fixing the shop, replacing what was stolen, trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy. He didn't hear from Lily after that first night, and he told himself that was for the best. Then, on the third day, Marcus burst into the shop just after noon, soaking wet, his face pale. "Turn on the news," he said. "What? Why?" "Just do it." Adrian pulled up a news site on his phone, and his blood turned to ice. The headline read, "Whitmore heiress missing after storm." Below it, a photo of Lily. Adrian's hands shook as he read. Lily had left her apartment last night during the storm. Her car had been found abandoned near the river, the door open, no sign of her. Police were treating it as a potential accident, but the details were still unclear. "No," Adrian whispered. "No, no, no." "Adrian!" But Adrian was already moving, grabbing his keys, running for his truck. Marcus followed, shouting something Adrian didn't hear. The only thing in his head was Lily's voice from 3 nights ago, broken and desperate, and his own words throwing her away. He drove toward the river, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. The rain had started again, turning the road slick, but Adrian didn't slow down. He couldn't. Police cars and emergency vehicles clustered near the waterfront. Adrian parked and ran, pushing past the barricades, ignoring the officers telling him to stay back. "Lily!" he shouted into the rain. "Lily!" An officer grabbed his arm. "Sir, you need to leave. That's my—" Adrian stopped, the word catching. What was she? Not his girlfriend. Not anymore. "I know her. Lily Whitmore. Where is she?" "We're searching the area. If you have information—" "She was looking for me. I know it." Because it made horrible, terrible sense. Lily wouldn't just disappear. She'd come looking for him, trying to fix what he'd broken, and now she was gone. Adrian pulled free and ran along the waterfront, scanning the dark water, the rain-soaked embankment, anywhere she might be. His lungs burned. His vision blurred. He didn't care. And then he saw it. A figure slumped against a concrete barrier near the water's edge, barely visible in the rain and fading light. "Lily!" He ran, slipping on the wet pavement, catching himself, running harder. When he reached her, she was soaked through, her clothes plastered to her skin, her hair hanging in wet ropes around her face. She looked up at him, and her eyes were hollow. "Adrian?" He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands shaking as he touched her face, her shoulders, making sure she was real. "What are you doing out here? Everyone's looking for you. I was looking for you." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I went to the shop, but you weren't there, and I kept driving. I didn't know where to go." "Why didn't you call?" "You told me you needed space, so I was giving it to you." Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. "But I couldn't stay away. I couldn't just let you go." "Lily, I know my father did this. The break-in, all of it. And I know you're scared, but Adrian, I'm scared too. I'm terrified of losing you." "You didn't lose me." "Yes, I did. You ended it. I was wrong." The words came out raw, desperate. "I was so wrong. I thought I was protecting Jamie, protecting myself, but all I did was push away the best thing that's happened to me in years." Lily stared at him, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then Adrian pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight he could feel her heartbeat against his chest. She clung to him, shaking, and he realized she was freezing. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you out of here." He helped her up, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders, and led her back to where the police and emergency workers were still searching. When they saw Lily, relief flooded their faces. "Miss Whitmore, are you all right?" "I'm fine," she said. "I'm sorry. I needed some air." They didn't look convinced, but they didn't push. An EMT checked her over, wrapped her in a thermal blanket, and suggested she go to the hospital. "I don't need a hospital," Lily said. "I just want to go home." "I'll take her," Adrian said. The EMT looked between them, then nodded. "Make sure she stays warm. And if she shows any signs of hypothermia, get her to an ER." Adrian drove Lily back to her apartment, the silence in the truck heavy but not empty. When they pulled up, he turned to her. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything. For pushing you away. For not fighting harder." "I'm sorry too," Lily said, "for bringing all this chaos into your life. It's not your fault." "It feels like it is." Adrian reached across the seat and took her hand. "We're going to figure this out. Together. No more running." Lily looked at him, and slowly, a small smile broke through. "Together. Together." They sat there in the rain, holding hands, and for the first time in days, Adrian felt like he could breathe. Adrian helped Lily up to her apartment, supporting her weight as they climbed the stairs. She was still shivering despite the thermal blanket and his jacket wrapped around her shoulders. Inside the apartment was exactly what he'd expected: elegant, pristine, and cold. Everything had its place. Nothing looked lived in. "Sit," he said, guiding her to the couch. "I'll find you some dry clothes. Bedroom, second door on the left." He found sweatpants and a sweater, brought them back, and waited in the kitchen while she changed. When she emerged, her hair still damp but no longer dripping, she looked smaller somehow, more vulnerable. "I'm making tea," Adrian said, filling the kettle he'd found. "Or coffee. Whatever you want." "Tea's good." They sat at her kitchen table, hands wrapped around warm mugs, and the silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable, but heavy with everything unsaid. "I thought I lost you," Adrian said finally. "You almost did." "I know." He stared into his mug. "I panicked. When they broke into the shop, I saw everything falling apart, and all I could think was that Jamie would pay the price for my choices. He would have paid a different price if you'd walked away from something real." Adrian looked up at her. "What do you mean?" "You would have taught him that love isn't worth fighting for, that when things get hard, you run." Lily's voice was steady now, the shock wearing off. "Is that what you want him to learn?" "No?" "Then we fight, not just for us, for him too, because he deserves to see what it looks like when someone doesn't give up." Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm not giving up, not anymore." "Good, because neither am I." They stayed there until Lily stopped shivering, until the color came back to her cheeks, until the fear that had gripped Adrian's chest since he saw that news headline finally loosened its hold. "I need to deal with my father," Lily said. "Really deal with him, not just yell and walk away." "How?" "I don't know yet, but he needs to understand that I'm done letting him control my life." "That's not going to be easy." "Nothing about this is easy." She squeezed his hand. "But it's worth it." Adrian stayed until she fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from everything. He covered her with a blanket, kissed her forehead, and let himself out quietly. The next morning, Adrian woke to his phone ringing. Richard Whitmore's name flashed on the screen. He answered. "What do you want?" "I want to talk. About last night." "What about it?" "My daughter was missing for 6 hours. The police found her with you. I think we need to discuss what's happening here." Adrian sat up, rubbing his eyes. "You want to discuss it? Fine. Meet me at Morrison Park, noon, just you and me." "I don't think—" "Those are my terms. Take it or leave it." Richard was silent for a moment. "Fine. Noon." Adrian hung up and immediately called Lily. "Your father wants to meet." "When?" "Today. Noon. I told him to come to the park." "Adrian, I should be there." "No. This is between me and him. If we're going to make this work, he needs to hear it from me." Lily was quiet. "Okay. But if he tries anything—" "I'll be fine. Trust me." "I do." At 11:45, Adrian was sitting on a bench near the fountain when Richard Whitmore arrived. He wore a suit even on a Saturday, his posture rigid, his expression unreadable. He sat down on the opposite end of the bench, maintaining distance. "Mr. Cole." "Mr. Whitmore." They sat in silence for a moment, watching joggers and families pass by. "My daughter could have died last night," Richard said finally. "I know." "Because of you." Adrian turned to him, anger flaring. "No, because of you. Because you've spent so much time trying to control her life that she doesn't know how to exist without someone else pulling the strings. And when she finally finds something that makes her happy, you try to destroy it." "I was protecting her." "From what? From being happy? From making her own choices?" Richard's jaw tightened. "From making a mistake she'll regret. You mean from choosing someone you didn't pick for her?" "Yes." The admission came out hard, defensive. "I've spent 28 years building a life for her, a future, and you're asking me to stand by while she throws it away for—" He gestured at Adrian. "For what? A mechanic with a child and a failing business?" Adrian felt the words land like punches, but he held his ground. "You're right. I'm a mechanic. I work with my hands. I live paycheck to paycheck, and yeah, I've got a kid, and most days I'm just trying to keep my head above water." He leaned forward. "But I see her. Not the Whitmore name, not the trust fund or the connections. I see Lily, the woman who sits in the grass talking about dinosaurs with my son, who eats tacos from a food truck and doesn't care if the grease drips on her jeans, who laughs like she's surprised by her own joy. That's not who she is. It's exactly who she is. You just haven't been paying attention." Richard stood abruptly, his hands clenched at his sides. "You don't understand what you're asking. The world she comes from, my world, it doesn't work the way yours does. There are expectations, responsibilities. And she's drowning in them." Adrian stood too, meeting Richard's eyes. "You lost your wife. I get that. I can't imagine what that was like. But you still have your daughter, and if you keep squeezing this tight, you're going to lose her too." For the first time, something cracked in Richard's expression. Not quite vulnerability, but close. What do you want from me? I want you to let her live her own life. I want you to stop sabotaging mine. And I want you to trust that maybe, just maybe, she knows what she needs better than you do. And if she's wrong, then she's wrong. But it's her mistake to make. Richard stared at him for a long moment. Then he looked away, out at the park, at the fountain where water caught the sunlight and scattered it in 1,000 directions. She was 3 when her mother died, Richard said quietly. Not 12. 3. I've been lying about that for years because it's easier to say she was old enough to remember. But she wasn't. His voice wavered. I raised her alone. I built everything for her, and the thought of someone coming in and taking her away. He stopped, collecting himself. I handled this badly. Yeah, you did. But I'm not going to apologize for protecting my daughter. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to stop confusing protection with control. Richard turned back to him, and for the first time, Adrian saw the man under the armor, tired, afraid, human. If I step back, Richard said slowly, if I let this happen, you have to promise me something. What? That you won't hurt her. I can't promise that. People hurt each other. It happens. But I can promise I'll try not to, and if I do, I'll do everything I can to make it right. That's not good enough. It's all I've got. They stood there, 2 men on opposite sides of everything, and Adrian waited for Richard to walk away, to reject the offer, to keep fighting. But Richard just exhaled, long and slow. I'll think about what you said. That's all I'm asking. Richard nodded once, then turned and walked away, his shoulders a little less rigid than when he'd arrived. Adrian sat back down on the bench, his heart pounding, and pulled out his phone. Lily answered immediately. How'd it go? I don't know, but I think maybe he's starting to hear me. That's more than I've gotten in years. It's a start. Over the next 2 weeks, things slowly shifted. The pressure that had been crushing Adrian's life began to ease. The bank stopped hounding him about the loan. The lease renewal went through without issue. No more broken windows or mysterious break-ins. Lily met with her father twice. Adrian didn't ask what was said. That was between them. But each time she came back a little lighter. He's trying, she told Adrian one night as they walked through the city. Jamie was at Marcus's giving them time alone. It's awkward, and he doesn't know how to talk to me like a person instead of an employee, but he's trying. That's something. Yeah, it is. They walked past the restaurant where they'd met, and Adrian stopped, looking at the lit windows. What? Lily asked. Just thinking, if that reservation hadn't been wrong, we never would have met. You don't know that. Maybe we would have run into each other somewhere else. Maybe, but I'm glad it happened the way it did. Lily smiled, slipping her hand into his. Me too. A month later, Lily invited Adrian and Jamie to dinner at her father's house. Adrian almost said no. The idea of sitting across a table from Richard Whitmore in his own territory felt like walking into a lion's den. But Lily asked, and that was enough. The house was exactly what Adrian expected. Massive, immaculate, every surface gleaming. Jamie's eyes went wide when they walked in. Whoa, he whispered. Is this a museum? Something like that, Adrian muttered. Richard met them in the foyer, and for a second, Adrian braced for hostility. But Richard just extended his hand. Adrian, thank you for coming. Adrian shook it, surprised by the firm but not aggressive grip. Thanks for having us. Richard looked down at Jamie. And you must be Jamie. Jamie nodded, suddenly shy. Lily tells me you like dinosaurs. Yeah. Well, I have something you might be interested in. Richard led them to a study lined with bookshelves. On one shelf sat a small fossil, protected under glass. That's a fragment of a triceratops horn. Real, not a replica. Jamie's mouth fell open. Really? Really? You can look at it, but don't touch the glass. It's very old. Jamie pressed his nose close, staring with the kind of awe only kids could muster. Adrian watched Richard watch Jamie and saw something soften in the older man's face. Dinner was stilted at first. Richard wasn't good at small talk, and Adrian wasn't good at pretending everything was fine. But Lily kept the conversation moving, asking Jamie about school, asking Adrian about the shop, drawing her father into discussions about things that weren't business or money. Halfway through, Jamie asked, "Mr. Whitmore, why do you live in such a big house if you're all by yourself?" Adrian's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "Jamie, it's all right," Richard said. He set down his own fork and looked at Jamie with something close to honesty. "That's a good question. I suppose I live here because I always have. But you're right, it is very big for one person." "You should get a dog," Jamie said seriously. "Dogs are good when you're lonely." Lily coughed, hiding a laugh. Adrian wanted to disappear into the floor, but Richard just smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. "That's not a bad idea." After dinner, Richard asked to speak with Adrian privately. They went out onto the terrace overlooking the gardens, the city lights visible in the distance. "I owe you an apology," Richard said. Adrian turned to him, surprised. "For what specifically?" "There's a lot to choose from." "For all of it. The intimidation, the interference, the vandalism. Yes, I had someone do that. I thought if I made your life difficult enough, you'd walk away on your own. I was wrong." "Yeah, you were." Richard looked out at the garden, his hands in his pockets. "I've spent so long trying to control everything that I forgot how to let go. Lily's mother, she used to tell me that. She said I was building walls instead of bridges." He paused. "She was right. And I didn't listen. Not then and not for a long time after she was gone. It's not too late, isn't it? I've done considerable damage." "You have. But you're here now, you're trying. That counts for something." Richard turned to him. "Take care of her. That's all I ask." "I will. And she'll take care of me. That's how it works." "Yes, I suppose it is." They went back inside where Lily and Jamie were looking at more of Richard's collection of artifacts and books. Jamie was chattering about a T-Rex skull he'd seen at the museum, and Lily was listening with the kind of attention that made Adrian's chest ache. When they left that night, Jamie fell asleep in the truck almost immediately. Adrian glanced at Lily in the passenger seat. "That went better than I expected." "He's changing," Lily said. "Slowly, but he's changing." "Because of you." "Because I stopped letting him dictate everything. And because you showed him what it looks like to actually fight for something." Adrian reached over and took her hand. "We make a good team." "Yeah, we do." 3 months later, Adrian woke up on a Saturday morning with Jamie jumping on his bed. Dad, wake up," Adrian groaned, pulling the pillow over his head. "It's 7 in the morning on a weekend." "Why are you awake?" "Because Lily's downstairs making pancakes, and she said I could help." Adrian sat up. "Lily's here?" "Yeah, she said you gave her a key." He had 2 weeks ago, after she'd spent enough nights at his apartment that it felt ridiculous for her to keep knocking. She'd given him one to her place too, though he'd used it exactly once, still feeling like he was trespassing in that pristine space. He got up, pulled on sweatpants, and followed Jamie downstairs. The apartment smelled like butter and vanilla, and Lily stood at the stove in one of Adrian's old t-shirts and shorts, hair tied back, flipping pancakes while Jamie stood on a chair next to her, carefully pouring batter onto the griddle. "Good morning," she said, glancing over her shoulder with a smile. "Morning." Adrian kissed her, then ruffled Jamie's hair. "You helping?" "I'm making dinosaur pancakes," Jamie announced proudly, pointing at a lumpy shape that might have been a stegosaurus if you squinted. "They look great, buddy." They ate breakfast together at the small kitchen table, syrup getting everywhere, Jamie talking nonstop about his plans for the day. And Adrian looked around at this moment, his son, the woman he loved, pancakes on a Saturday morning, and realized this was what happiness looked like. Not perfect, not polished, just real. After breakfast, Lily helped clean up while Jamie went to get dressed. Adrian was drying dishes when she spoke. "I've been thinking." "About what?" "About moving in together." Adrian set down the dish. "Here? Or my place? Or somewhere new? I don't care where. I'm tired of splitting time between 2 places. I want to wake up with you every day. With both of you." Adrian turned to her. "You're serious?" "Completely." "Lily, this apartment is barely big enough for me and Jamie. And your place is too big and too cold and doesn't feel like home. But anywhere with you does." Adrian pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "Okay." "Okay?" "Yeah, let's do it. Let's find a place. Together." She kissed him, smiling against his lips. Okay. They spent the next month looking at apartments that could fit all three of them. Nothing fancy. Adrian couldn't afford fancy, and Lily insisted she didn't want it anyway. They found a place in a neighborhood halfway between the shop and Jamie's school. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with actual counter space, and a small balcony where Jamie immediately claimed he'd set up his dinosaur collection. Moving day was chaos. Marcus showed up with a truck and a 12-pack of beer. Richard sent movers, professional ones with uniforms, which Adrian wanted to refuse until Lily pointed out that they had a lot of heavy furniture and pride was less important than not throwing out his back. By evening, boxes were everywhere. Furniture was half assembled, and Jamie was running through the new space like he'd lived there his whole life. "I love it here," he shouted, sliding across the hardwood floors in his socks. "Careful," Adrian called. "Don't break anything." Lily collapsed onto the couch, one of the few pieces already set up, and Adrian sat next to her. Marcus had left, the movers were gone, and Jamie had finally worn himself out enough to sit still in front of the TV. "This is real now," Lily said. "Yeah, it is." "You scared?" "Terrified." She laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Me too. But it's a good kind of scared." "Yeah, it is." 6 months later, on a Sunday morning in early spring, Adrian took Jamie to the park. Just the two of them, like they used to do before Lily. They kicked a soccer ball around, ate hot dogs from a vendor, and sat on the swings watching clouds drift across the sky. "Dad?" Jamie said, pumping his legs to swing higher. "Yeah? Are you going to marry Lily?" Adrian's swing slowed. "Where'd that come from?" "Uncle Marcus said you probably would, and I think you should." "Oh yeah, why's that?" "Because she makes you happy, and she makes really good pancakes, and she's nice to me." Adrian smiled, watching his son swing back and forth. "Those are pretty good reasons. So are you? Would you be okay with it if I did?" Jamie stopped swinging, his feet dragging in the dirt. He looked at Adrian with those serious eyes that sometimes made him seem older than 7. "I think Mom wouldn't mind," he said quietly. "I don't remember her much, but I think she'd want you to be happy." Adrian's throat tightened. "Come here." Jamie jumped off the swing and climbed into Adrian's lap, wrapping his arms around his father's neck. Adrian held him close, breathing in the smell of kid sweat and sunshine. "I love you, buddy." "I love you too, Dad. And yeah, I think I'm going to ask her to marry me." "When?" "When it feels right." "It feels right now." Adrian laughed. "Maybe, but I want to do it properly." "What's properly?" "I have no idea, but I'll figure it out." 2 weeks later, Adrian was closing up the shop when his phone rang. Richard Whitmore. "Richard?" "Adrian, do you have a moment?" "Sure. What's up?" "I'd like you to come by the house tomorrow. There's something I want to discuss." Adrian's stomach tightened. "Is everything okay? Is Lily—" "She's fine. This isn't about her. Not directly. Just come by, please." The next day, Adrian drove to Richard's house with a sense of unease he couldn't shake. Richard met him at the door and led him back to the study where Jamie had marveled at the fossil months ago. "Sit," Richard said, gesturing to a chair. Adrian sat. Richard poured 2 glasses of whiskey, expensive stuff that Adrian could tell just by looking at the bottle, and handed one to Adrian. "I'm going to cut to the point," Richard said. "You're going to ask my daughter to marry you." Adrian blinked. "How did you—" "I'm not blind, and Lily's been happier in the last year than I've seen her in a decade. It doesn't take a genius to see where this is going. Okay, and?" Richard reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small box. He opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond set in platinum. "This was my wife's engagement ring. I want you to have it." Adrian stared at the ring, then at Richard. "I can't—" "Yes, you can. My wife would have liked you. She had a thing for people who didn't take my bullshit." A faint smile crossed Richard's face. "And Lily deserves something with meaning, not just something expensive." "Richard, this is—" "Don't make a big speech. Just take it. Give it to my daughter and make her happy." Adrian took the box, his hands unsteady. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just don't screw this up." "I'll try not to." Richard raised his glass. "To not screwing things up." Adrian clinked his glass against Richard's, to not screwing things up. That weekend, Adrian planned. He didn't want something big or flashy, no fancy restaurant, no public proposal, just something that felt like them. He took Lily back to Morrison Park on a Saturday evening, the same bench where they'd sat with Jamie that first time, the fountain behind them, the city humming around them. "Why are we here?" Lily asked, smiling. "Just wanted to come back to where it started." "The wrong table started it." "No, this did. You, me, and Jamie, right here." Lily looked around, remembering. That feels like forever ago. It was less than 2 years. "Best wrong table I ever sat at." Adrian laughed, then took a breath. "Lily." "Yeah?" He pulled out the box and opened it. Lily's eyes went wide, her hand flying to her mouth. "Your father gave this to me. It was your mother's. He said she'd want you to have it." Adrian took her hand. "I don't have a big speech prepared. I'm not good at stuff like that. But I know that before I met you, I was just surviving, going through the motions, and you made me want to actually live. You see me, the real me, not the guy who's barely holding it together, and you stay anyway. You love Jamie like he's yours. You make us better just by being part of our lives." Lily was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "So yeah," Adrian continued, "I'm asking, will you marry me?" "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and she threw her arms around him, kissing him while crying and laughing at the same time. People in the park clapped. Someone whistled. Adrian didn't care. They sat on that bench for a long time, Lily's head on his shoulder, her hand in his, the ring catching the last light of the sun. "Your father's going to want to throw a big wedding," Adrian said. "Probably." "Are you okay with that?" "I'm okay with whatever, as long as I end up married to you. We could just go to City Hall." "We could, but I kind of want Jamie to see it, and Marcus, and yeah, even my father. I want them all there." "Okay, then that's what we'll do." The wedding was small, not City Hall small, but not the massive society event Richard initially tried to plan. Lily shut that down fast. They got married in the same park where Adrian had proposed, under a simple arch decorated with wildflowers. Jamie was the ring bearer, taking his job so seriously that he walked slower than anyone had ever walked down an aisle. Marcus was the best man, tearing up halfway through and trying to hide it. Caroline stood beside Lily, along with 2 other friends from college. And Richard Whitmore sat in the front row, watching his daughter marry a mechanic with a kid and a modest business, and he smiled, really smiled. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Adrian did, and Jamie cheered so loud that half the park turned to look. At the reception, held in a small venue that Lily picked because she liked the string lights and the patio overlooking the city, people danced and ate and celebrated. Richard gave a toast that started stiff and formal, but ended with him saying, "My daughter chose well, and I'm grateful she didn't listen to me." Everyone laughed. Lily cried. Adrian held her hand and thought about the wrong table, the right person, and how sometimes the best things in life happened when you stop trying to control everything and just let yourself fall. Later that night, after the reception wound down and they'd said goodbye to everyone, Adrian and Lily drove home, to their home, the one they'd built together. Jamie was asleep in the back seat, his bow tie crooked, his shirt untucked. "You okay?" Adrian asked as they pulled into their building's parking lot. "I'm perfect," Lily said. "Completely, messily, imperfectly perfect. That's my favorite kind of perfect." They carried Jamie inside, put him to bed still half-dressed because he was too heavy to fight, and collapsed on their own bed, exhausted and happy. "I can't believe we did it," Lily said, staring at the ceiling. "Did what?" "Got here, to this. I spent so long thinking I'd never find something real. And then I sat at the wrong table. Best mistake ever." "Yeah, it was." Adrian rolled over, pulling her close. "I love you, Mrs. Cole." She smiled against his chest. "I love you too." And lying there in the dark, in the home they'd built, with their son asleep down the hall and a future stretching out ahead of them, Adrian realized that fear had almost cost him everything. Fear of not being enough. Fear of failing. Fear of letting someone in only to lose them. But love, real love, wasn't about being fearless. It was about being terrified and choosing to stay anyway. It was about showing up even when everything in you screamed to run. It was about building something together, brick by messy brick, and trusting that the foundation would hold. Because in the end, it wasn't the perfect moments that mattered. It wasn't the fancy restaurants or the grand gestures or the storybook endings. It was the wrong tables that turned into right beginnings. It was the dinosaur pancakes on Saturday mornings. It was the father-in-law who learned to let go and the little boy who said yes to love because he saw it lived out in front of him every day. It was choosing each other over and over through the broken windows and the storms and the moments when giving up felt easier than holding on. That was what love looked like. Imperfect, hard-won, real. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything.